Jack Nicklaus does not care about your feelings or corporate profits. When the greatest golfer in history speaks, the entire sport stops to listen. But this week at Muirfield Village, the Golden Bear was not there to hand out trophies or share fond memories. He has won 18 major championships and built a golf course that hosts the best players on earth. He was there to deliver a harsh warning to the new leadership of the PGA Tour. Behind closed doors, away from the cameras and the crowds, Jack called a private meeting. He looked at the men now running professional golf and told them exactly what he thinks of their radical new plans. Most people in the golf world assume the tour is just making standard business moves to stay alive. They think the new bosses are just trying to keep the sponsors happy and the TV ratings high. Jack sees it completely differently. He believes the current path will destroy the rhythm of the game and burn out the best players in the world. He did not just send an angry email or give a polite quote to the press. He demanded a face-to-face sit-down to force a massive change right now. He ordered them to fix the broken system, but the real shock was who he actually blamed. I think Jack is the only one who can save the tour. Do you agree? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more. The heavy doors at the historic clubhouse finally closed, and whatever happened inside that room will change professional golf forever. Sitting across from the legend was Brian Rolapp, the newly appointed chief executive of the PGA. He built his career in television rights and corporate media, far away from the actual grass of a golf course. Jack does not care about broadcast metrics or streaming deals. He looked at the modern executive and demanded they fix the current mess right now. Corporate spreadsheets could not hide the exact flaw waiting in the master plan. Executives tried to explain the financial side of their upcoming proposals. They talked about maximizing revenue and keeping the sport relevant in a crowded media market. Jack simply shook his head and pointed to the history of the game. The 18-time major winner made it clear that chasing short-term profits would destroy the long-term health of the sport. He warned them that treating the athletes like machines would lead to a total disaster. Soul of the game clashed directly with modern greed behind those closed doors. Behind the closed doors of the historic clubhouse, the body language told the real story. Rolapp leaned forward, trying to use polite business language to defend the new direction of the sport. Jack remained completely stone-faced, refusing to accept any corporate excuses. He made it absolutely clear that he was not there to offer gentle advice from the sidelines. He was there to issue a direct ultimatum to the people now holding the keys to professional golf. Incoming executives had a very different strategy to protect their new empire. The Golden Bear finally leaned in and delivered his core warning. He told the leadership that their current path would completely break the traditional rhythm of the season. He did not name the exact dates or the specific events just yet. He simply told them that the upcoming calendar changes were a massive mistake that would ruin the product on the screen. Rolapp realized in that moment that ignoring this warning would be a fatal error for his new tenure. Hidden dangers in official documents were already causing severe physical tolls. Professional golf is a brutal test of endurance. The athletes travel across the world every single week. They play in extreme heat, heavy rain, and freezing cold. Their bodies take a massive beating from walking the courses and carrying their bags. When the tour leadership decides to change the schedule without thinking about the players, the athletes suffer the most. Jack knows this better than anyone. He spent his entire career protecting the integrity of the game and the well-being of the competitors. He told the new boss that a tired player cannot make a good putt. A tired player cannot drive the ball far. A tired player will simply quit. Jack built Muirfield Village specifically to test the mental and physical limits of the best players in the world. The thick rough, the fast greens, and the long walks between holes are not accidental. They are designed to separate the great from the good. But even Jack knows that a player cannot perform at that level week after week without a break. The human body needs time to heal blisters, rest sore muscles, and clear the mind. When the tour leadership decides to pack 4 massive events into a single month, they are ignoring the basic biology of the sport. You cannot build a great product on the foundation of exhausted athletes. Jack remembers a time when the golf season had a natural breathing room. Players would win a major championship and actually take a week off to celebrate with their families. They would spend time fixing their swings without the pressure of a tournament ticking clock. Today, the tour demands constant visibility. The executives want the stars on the screen every single weekend because they are terrified of losing audience attention. But Jack knows that golf is not a sprint. It is a long, grueling marathon that tests a player's mind just as much as their body. When you force athletes to compete at maximum intensity without a break, they do not just get tired, they get bitter. They lose their love for the game. And when the players lose their passion, the fans can feel it. Basic biology of the sport was about to collide with a brutal travel nightmare. Professional golf is not just about hitting a small white ball into a small cup. It is a massive logistical operation. When the schedule clusters events together, the travel becomes a brutal nightmare. Players and their teams have to fly across multiple time zones in a matter of days. They deal with delayed flights, lost luggage, and changing weather conditions. The caddies, who carry the heavy bags and walk miles every single day, feel this exhaustion even more than the players. When a caddy is tired, they make mistakes reading the greens. When a player is tired, they miss 3-foot putts. The tour bosses sit in comfortable offices and look at a spreadsheet, completely ignoring the reality of life on the road. Exhausted caddies were suddenly threatening to walk off the bag entirely. The tour bosses wanted to create a fresh tier of elite events. They wanted to separate the top players from the rest of the field. On paper, this sounds like a great way to make more money. The television networks love it because they get the biggest stars on the screen at the same time. The sponsors love it because they get more visibility for their logos. But Jack saw the massive hole in this perfect corporate plan. He knew that forcing the best players to play against each other every single week would drain their energy. Imagine running a marathon every single weekend. That is what the new schedule feels like for the top athletes. They need time to rest. They need time to practice. They need time to recover their minds and their bodies. When you take away that recovery time, the quality of the golf goes down. The fans tuning in on Sunday afternoon will not see magic. They will see exhausted athletes making silly mistakes. Jack told the executives that they are trading the soul of the sport for a quick cash grab. Boardroom executives completely ignored the actual voices of the players. Jack did not walk into that meeting alone. He carried the hidden frustrations of the entire locker room with him. The first major ally to step forward was Wyndham Clark. The young star has been playing some of the best golf of his life. He knows exactly what it takes to win on the PGA Tour. Wyndham looked at the proposed changes and saw the exact same danger that Jack saw. He realized that the new format would make it almost impossible to maintain peak physical condition. Wyndham started talking to his friends in the locker room. He told them that the tour was treating them like racehorses instead of professional athletes. The younger players listened to him. They saw the older legends struggling with injuries. They saw the grueling travel schedule taking a toll on their mental health. When Jack called for this private meeting, Wyndham was the first to offer his full support. He told the media that the Golden Bear was finally saying what everyone else was too scared to say. Young stars were finally ready to rebel against the system. I think the players are finally waking up to the reality of the tour. What is your take on this player revolt? Let me know in the comments. The locker room was united, but the real battle was still waiting in the boardroom. The tour leadership tried to ignore the player complaints. They thought the athletes would just fall in line and play for the massive prize money. They thought the promise of bigger paychecks would silence any anger about the schedule. But Jack Nicklaus does not care about money. He cares about the legacy of the game. He told Rolapp that if they push this new format through, the players will simply walk away. They will protect their bodies and their careers. They will skip the events that do not matter. Massive paychecks could not trap players into accepting a broken calendar. Now we must look at the exact calendar changes that sparked this massive confrontation. The PGA Tour has been quietly working on a radical overhaul for the upcoming seasons. They want to pack multiple massive tournaments into the exact same weeks. This is the clustered schedule that Jack is fighting so hard to stop. Instead of spreading the big events out over the spring and summer, the tour wants to bunch them all together. Think about the month of March. In the past, the tour would space out the biggest events. Players would have a week to rest after a major tournament. They would fly home, sleep in their own beds, and practice on their home courses. The new clustered schedule destroys this basic rhythm. It forces the top players to play 4 or 5 huge events in a single month. They will have to travel from Florida to Texas to California in just a few weeks. There will be no time to breathe. There will be no time to recover. This clustered format also creates a massive problem for the fans. When you put all the best tournaments in the same weeks, they cancel each other out. The television ratings will drop because the audience cannot watch everything. The sponsors will be angry because their events are getting lost in the noise. Jack told the executives that they are creating a logjam of golf that nobody wants. The fans want a steady stream of great events from March to September. They do not want a massive flood of golf in the spring and then nothing in the late summer. This clustered schedule also creates a massive problem for the local charities that rely on these tournaments. Think about the Memorial Tournament or the local Pro-Am events. These tournaments raise millions of dollars for hospitals, youth programs, and community projects. They rely on the top players to show up, attract the crowds, and drive the donations. If the new schedule forces the top players to skip these events to rest for the next big tournament, the charities lose out. The local volunteers who spend hundreds of hours setting up the course will see their favorite stars playing somewhere else. The sponsors who pay millions for a hospitality tent will be angry when the #1 player in the world is not there to sign autographs. Jack knows that golf is built on these local community connections. You cannot just treat these tournaments like disposable television content. Local charities were about to lose millions in vital community funding. Think about the traditional golf fan who saves up all year to attend their favorite local tournament. They buy their tickets, plan their travel, and look forward to watching the greatest players in the world walk the fairways they have seen on television. Under the new clustered schedule, those fans will arrive at the first tee only to find out that the top 10 players in the world decided to stay home and rest for the next event. The local fan feels cheated. They spent their hard-earned money for an inferior product. This betrayal of the everyday fan is what angers Jack the most. He built his career on the connection between the players and the people in the grandstands. If the tour treats the loyal fans like an afterthought, they will simply stop showing up. Empty grandstands will quickly follow the exhausted players. Strict divisions created an even bigger insult to the game's rich history. The tour also wants to introduce a strict two-tiered structure. They want to divide the players into two separate groups. The top players will only play in the elite events. The rest of the field will be left to play in the smaller, less important tournaments. Jack sees this as a complete betrayal of the PGA Tour's history. The beauty of golf has always been that anyone can enter. A young amateur can qualify and play against the #1 player in the world. This is how legends are born. This is how the sport grows. If you lock the top players in their own private club, the sport dies. The smaller tournaments will lose their star power. The local fans will stop buying tickets because their favorite stars are not there. The history of courses like Muirfield Village, Pebble Beach, and Augusta National will be ignored. Jack made it crystal clear to Rolapp that the PGA Tour is not a closed franchise like the NBA or the NFL. It is an open tour. It belongs to the fans and the history of the game. You cannot just copy a basketball model and paste it onto golf. This massive internal fight is happening while the PGA Tour is already fighting a war on another front. LIV Golf is still out there, waiting for any sign of weakness. The rival league has deep pockets and a very different schedule. They offer the players a chance to play fewer events, make more money, and have more time to rest. Jack warned Rolapp that if the PGA Tour pushes this clustered, exhausting schedule, the players will look at LIV Golf and smile. The rival league will use the PGA Tour's own schedule against them. They will tell the athletes, "Come play for us. We will not burn out your bodies. We will give you time to rest." Jack knows that the only way to keep the players on the PGA Tour is to treat them right. You have to give them a schedule that makes sense. You have to give them a format that respects their health and their history. If the tour ignores this, they will lose the best players in the world to the rival league. Deep pockets of a rival league made this internal fight even more dangerous. This internal fight is happening while the PGA Tour is already fighting a war on another front. LIV Golf is still out there, waiting for any sign of weakness. The rival league has a very different structure. They use a shotgun start, meaning all players tee off at the same time. Their events finish in just 5 hours. The television broadcast is tight, fast, and easy to watch. In contrast, the traditional PGA Tour format takes much longer. When you add the clustered schedule on top of that, the PGA product looks slow and disorganized by comparison. The rival league will point at the exhausted players and the chaotic schedule and say their model is better. Jack knows that the only way to beat them is not to copy them, but to offer a better, more traditional product that respects the fans. Waiting in the shadows, the rival league made the final decision incredibly dangerous. Rolapp sits in his new office looking at the massive calendar on his wall. He has to make a choice. He can listen to the 18-time major winner and change the schedule. He can space out the events, protect the players, and keep the soul of the game intact. Or he can ignore Jack, push the clustered schedule through, and hope the players do not rebel. The board of directors is watching him closely. The sponsors are waiting to see what he will do. The fans are starting to notice the changes. If Rolapp chooses the money over the game, he will face a massive revolt. The players will skip events. The fans will turn off their televisions. The history of the PGA Tour will be rewritten as the era of corporate greed. But if he listens to Jack, he will anger the television networks and the short-term investors. He will have to explain why they are making less money in the spring to protect the long-term health of the sport. It is an impossible choice. Final choice now rests entirely on the shoulders of the new chief executive. Jack is not just going to sit quietly at Muirfield Village and wait for the answer. He is using his massive platform to speak directly to the fans. He is giving interviews to the biggest golf magazines. He is posting on social media. He is making sure that every single golf fan knows about the danger of the clustered schedule. He is building a public army of supporters. He wants the fans to call the tour and demand a better product. He wants the sponsors to feel the pressure from the public. This is a masterclass in leverage. Jack knows that the PGA Tour cannot survive without the fans. If the fans turn against the new schedule, the sponsors will pull their money. If the sponsors pull their money, the tour will have to change the plan. Jack is using his legendary status to force the corporate bosses to listen to reason. He is proving that you cannot just buy the soul of golf. You have to earn it by respecting the game, the players, and the fans. Public pressure is mounting every single day across the golf world. The board of directors for the PGA Tour is watching this entire situation very closely. They are caught in the middle of a massive power struggle. On one side, they have the television partners who want the biggest stars on the screen every single week to boost their advertising rates. On the other side, they have the legacy sponsors and the traditional golf fans who want to see the sport played the right way. If the board forces the clustered schedule through, they might get a short-term bump in TV ratings, but they will risk alienating the core fan base that has supported the tour for decades. Jack is using his massive influence to remind the board of this simple fact. He is telling them that a short-term profit is not worth a long-term disaster. The board members are starting to realize that Jack is right. They are looking at the player feedback and seeing the exact same warning signs. Board members are finally waking up to the extreme danger ahead. The boardroom discussions behind this schedule change have been incredibly heated. Some members argue that the modern sports world moves too fast to wait for a traditional golf rhythm. They point to other major sports where teams play multiple games in a single week. But golf is fundamentally different. A golfer carries their own equipment, walks miles of uneven terrain, and relies on absolute mental precision for every single shot. You cannot replicate that level of focus when your legs are shaking from fatigue. Jack has spent the last few weeks making phone calls to the most influential board members. He is reminding them of the core values that built the PGA Tour into a global powerhouse. Official publication of the new schedule will reveal the ultimate truth. If you want to see more deep dives into the real drama of professional golf, please hit that subscribe button right now. The future of the sport is hanging by a thread, and every golf fan needs to pay attention. The final choice sits on the desk of the PGA Tour leadership. They can choose to protect the legacy of the game, or they can choose to protect their quarterly profits. Jack Nicklaus has made his position perfectly clear. He has drawn a line in the sand at Muirfield Village. He has told them to fix the broken system right now. The players are watching. The fans are watching. The history of the game is watching. Professional golf is at a crossroads. The decisions made in the next few weeks will shape the sport for the next 20 years. If they listen to the Golden Bear, the game will survive and thrive. If they ignore him, they will risk destroying the very thing that made the PGA Tour the greatest golf organization in the world. The heavy doors of the clubhouse might be closed, but the echoes of this confrontation will be heard all over the golf world. The boss has been warned. The players are ready. The only thing left to do is wait and see if the PGA Tour actually cares about the game of golf.